Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. National Road Safety Council again warning road users as road fatalities increase. Staffing issues affecting health center in St. Catherine. And later in sports, West Indies women suffer 7th straight defeat of limited overs tour against England. Thank you for joining us. I'm Shamela Pullen. Here are the details. The number of road crashes across the island continues to increase heading into the Christmas holiday, with more fatalities on the weekend. An early morning crash along Constant Spring Road in St. Andrew left one person dead. Initial investigations suggest that speeding may have been a major contributor to the mishap. The police say a 17-year-old was driving the car when he lost control of the vehicle and crashed into a wall. In addition to the fatality, at least 6 others have been hospitalized with serious injuries. In St. Mary, 19-year-old Lee Ann Lee of Golden Spring in St. Andrew died in a crash in the vicinity of the Westmoreland Bridge on Saturday morning. Reports are that sometime after 5 o'clock, a truck collided with the Toyota motor car, sending it on the other side of the road. Miss Lee was rushed to the Anata Bay Hospital, where she was pronounced dead. This is the 8th fatal crash in St. Mary since the start of the year. And Vice Chairman of the National Road Safety Council, Dr. Lucian Jones, is again calling for safer driving practices and increased vigilance during the Christmas season and beyond. More in this report. As of December 19, there have been 461 road crashes in Jamaica since the start of the year. Troubling when compared to 458 over the same period last year.
And the total number of people that left last year was 487. There was a report from Dr. Paris which stated that at the time we had the meeting, 1.6 persons were dying per day. And that would project up to between 481 and 497 this year. So the question is, what could we do between now and end of the year to stop the carnage on the roads?
Vice Chairman of the National Road Safety Council, Dr. Lucian Jones, says a meeting was held recently with Prime Minister Andrew Holness, and out of the discussion, it was agreed to increase police presence on the roads.
The police have gotten some new equipment. I'm not sure it's going to be available for the Christmas period. Hopefully it will be. Where instead of being taken to a center to confirm the test that you do on spot, they have some new machines that can do that very same function on spot. And also, we also heard that if you are stopped for speeding, and you can be tested also for presence of alcohol in your breath.
He also has this warning to road users.
Is that if you drink and drive, you're not able to pilot your car safely. You're not able to stay in your lane. You're not aware of what is happening around you as much as if you're not on the influence of alcohol. You can drive off and smash into a concrete wall. You can hit down people on the road. And it is well known all over the world. And this is the reason why we have the breathalyzer test and the Don't Drink and Drive campaign.
Critics have argued that the current drink and drive campaign is not working. Dr. Jones has this response.
It probably will not have as great an effect as this year, but we are not concentrating only on the Christmas period, because the first 3 months of the year is critical in our campaign. We have had a number of deaths in January, February, and March. So we are organizing a campaign both for between now and the end of the year and for the first 3 months of the year, next year, 2023.
Consumers are being warned to brace for higher than normal prices when they go to the market for the Christmas period. President of the Jamaica Agricultural Society, Lenworth Fulton, says vegetables such as tomatoes, cabbage and lettuce have increased by 100 to 150%. Meanwhile, on the meat side, there's a nominal increase of approximately 7 to 10%. Mr. Fulton says the prices are due to the inflationary pressures which are affecting the country.
Because there is an inflation running about 9–12% around that we can't do anything about and so on. But remember, the major chicken companies have reduced their prices in the region of 12 and 14% a couple months ago. So we are not bad with meat, except for goat meat.
Mr. Fulton, however, noted that there are some concerns from farmers in terms of meeting the demands for agricultural produce.
Locally, we are meeting the market, but that is another problem because there are some factors that we didn't calculate. We did not calculate that tourism would have bounced back this well, and we have to feed them. So the market is under pressure to suffice the local consumers and the hotels and restaurants. So that too is a factor that is pushing up the price.
But while there are those concerns, the JS head says the issue of predial larceny continues to hamper productivity in the island's agricultural sector. He says farmers are not happy.
They are very disgruntled because they're not seeing any deliberate step to stem predial larceny. And I'm not saying that the police is not putting out their best effort. But with this type of crime rate, the police is going to choose to attend to rape and murder and arson and these things before they attend to predial larceny. It's just natural.
Countries have finally approved a historic agreement to protect nature. The coming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework was adopted in Montreal, Canada at the COP15 summit. Kalisha Williams reports.
2 weeks ago, when I first sat in this chair, I spoke about the post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework, which explains how nations here at COP15 should protect nature. Well, after 4 years since the negotiations started and 2 weeks of intense discussions, heated negotiations here in Montreal, Canada, this morning, a few hours ago, they finally adopted the framework. It's now referred to as the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. It's like a Paris-like deal for persons who may be following the climate conversation. So this new deal now, what does this mean? Well, it is a landmark agreement, historic, some persons are calling it, in terms of protecting biodiversity. It also means more money. So more money will be sent from developed countries to developing nations, small island developing states like Jamaica as well. So the target is for $200 billion to be mobilized from developed countries to developing countries by 2030. And how it will work is it will work in 2 tranches. So by 2025, they're hoping to mobilize at least $20 billion each year. And then by 2026 onwards to 2030, they're hoping to increase it to $30 billion each year. There are also other targets in the agreement, for instance, protecting 30% of the world's lands and oceans by 2030. This include, for instance, endangered species of plants and animals, rainforests, wetlands. And by 2026, they will do a global stocktake, which in essence is to see how far countries have come, how close are they in terms of achieving these targets. So right now, persons here, they're just elated. It's what people have been waiting for 2 weeks. There have been a lot of trepidation. Persons were worried, there's concerns as to whether or not this deal would have been reached. So I'll continue to monitor the situation here on the ground in Montreal, Canada, and of course I'll have more updates in primetime news at 7.
At least one councillor is this afternoon raising questions about inadequate staffing at the Glengough Health Centre in St. Catherine. Roger Curlew is a councillor for the Mount Industry Division. He says the absence of a registered nurse and a midwife recently resulted in the postponement of family health activities at the facility. He says those activities have been moved to Thursday, which is the day for antenatal clinic. He argues that the change is causing undue pressure.
You can just imagine the pressure, combining those 2 clinics in one. The pressure for the nurses will be on spot, and even the patients who will be coming will have to wait a bit longer. And I find this quite distressing that a day that is planned for family planning, you know, we don't have the resource persons on spot. And it goes to show the wide-scale issues in the public health system in Jamaica.
Mr. Curlew says the clinic, which is the only one in the division, has been facing several challenges over the years, and those issues need to be addressed urgently.
There's a nurse's quarters here on the compound. That quarters is deteriorated, or it's in the process of being deteriorating because no residential nurses here. We used to have an ambulance here a few years ago. So this clinic used to be serving its purpose as a type 2 clinic, and at this point in time, it is no longer optimal as relates to that. And this is something I'm going after as the councillor for the area and the representative of the people. I'm going to have to take up this issue to convene an emergency meeting to have some issues discussed.
It's now time for the Business Minute.
Image Plus Consultants, which trains as Apex Radiology, is looking to list on the Jamaica Stock Exchange via an initial public offer. The company plans to raise up to $495.8 million on the JSE's junior market. Of the 247.8 million shares on offer being sold at $2 each, only 182.8 are being sold to the general public. The remaining are reserved for special groups to include key shareholders and employees. Investors in Image Plus will have to buy a minimum 5,000 shares with multiples of 100 thereafter. The offer is to run from December 28 to January 11. Image Plus Consultants plans to use the funds for growth by acquiring property, particularly in Kingston, to relocate its largest operations and expand offerings. The company is also looking to procure new biomedical equipment to offer additional diagnostic services at its Otrius location. JMMB is the lead broker for the deal. In international business, FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried reportedly has reversed course and will not fight his extradition to the United States. The former CEO is currently jailed in the Bahamas. Federal prosecutors indicted Bankman-Fried on 8 criminal charges last week that include wire fraud and conspiracy. He's accused of misusing investor funds. If convicted, the 30-year-old could spend the rest of his life behind bars. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Shane Masters.
Now for a look at the top regional and international stories.
In the region, the conference...
We head to a quick break. When we come back, we'll have your midday sports report with Renarda Brown.